Hey everyone, this is Renee from imore.com. Welcome to our weekly show focused on everything iPhone and iPad, from news and views to help and how-tos. This is iPhone and iPad Live. It's February 1st, 2012, and joining me tonight on our really big show is the co-host of Iterate and the CIO of Nickelfish, Mr. Seth Clifford. How are you, Seth?
I'm doing well, Renee. How are you?
Very well, thank you. I'm still trying to figure out what that I stands for. Last week I thought it was intelligence. This week I think it's maybe inspiration.
Let's do something with imbibe. Can we do that?
No, I think that's... Is that an I? Is that an I word?
Yeah,
Okay.
imbibe.
All right,
to drink,
Chief Imbibing Officer. Nice.
Yeah.
Also joining us, the host of Apps and Accessories Live and of Zen and Tech. Georgia, how are you?
I'm a little bit afraid, but I'm still here.
Is it true? Are the rumors true that you had to actually dig your car out of sheets and sheets of ice to get here tonight?
I had to have an ice pick and a blowtorch.
So, yeah, ouch. A blowtorch and ice pick. That sounds like a lot of Sharon Stone movies wrapped up into one.
Yeah, but it wasn't that hot.
Oh, okay. Well, blowtorch, man, you can't get much hotter than a blowtorch.
That's true. That's true.
So we have an announcement to make. It is February 1st, and that means it is Fitness Month at iMore and at Mobile Nations. This kind of started after CES when Kevin and Phil and I and Adam and Derek and Daniel and everybody ate way too much. Even though we were walking those massive trade floors, we just did not feel good about ourselves or others. So we started challenging each other, laying down money and manhood to... basically say we need to get fit. We need to get healthy in February, and we made this Fitness Month.
Who won the manhood?
No one yet. It's a whole month. We got a whole month to prove it.
So is everybody getting Fitbits or what?
A lot of them have gotten Fitbits. I think some of them are still trying the jawbone up. A lot of them are getting apps. We're actually going to have a special edition Zen and Tech with Crackberry Kevin after this show, talking about fitness apps and fitness accessories and such, and basically laying down the Fitness Month for everybody. We're going to kick it off.
I'm really excited. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, Georgia believes that she's way ahead of all of us and is just going to smoke us poor old men.
Yeah, I'm all into the competition. I'm like, let's do it.
I think she's already writing pwned on a bunch of beautifully, latticed postcards to send our way.
Yeah. Seth will have to get a tattoo of, at the end, so.
Well, Seth is way ahead of us, too. You already said you were walking for miles and eating veggies and things.
Yeah, since last June, I've basically completely changed my lifestyle for the better, and I can't tell you how good it is. I feel great.
Really, eh?
Yeah, I walk usually at least a mile a day, sometimes as much as 3. I eat a lot of fresh vegetables. I drink a lot of water. Obviously, I'm standing at work. I mean, just portion control, people say oh, when you want to make massive change in your life, start small. I just went whole hog. I was like, nope, I'm doing it top to bottom. And,
wait, I thought it was the Putin diet you went on.
No, I didn't do that. No, I didn't want my heart to explode, so I didn't do that.
So that's how you got the 6-pack.
I actually have kind of a party ball still, but...
Oh, she meant a 6-pack of beer. There's more to this.
Awesome.
There is not less
Party
to
ball.
this. There's actually more to this because you can win prizes. All the sites, all of Mobile Nations will be giving away a bunch of stuff. But at iMore, we're going to give away iPod Nanos every week to help keep people motivated. When you're in the forums, this whole thing is taking place in the forums. We're posting our goals. I don't want to spoil too much of Zen and Tech, but a lot of it is going on in there. You can win an iPod Nano.
We get to keep fit, have fun, rock ourselves out, and we can get free stuff.
You can even get the grand prize, an iPad 3 when Apple releases it. We will buy it for you.
Oh, I'm so getting the iPad 3.
You can't win your staff.
That's fine. So do you only win the prizes if you're one of the top people? Do you have to be one of the best in order to win?
You have to participate. You have to be in there. You have to participate, and you have to, get healthy and fit. Or just
like
post
a
a lot.
win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. Win, 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 win. I lost track of the amount of win in this thing. I'll have to ask Charlie Sheen later.
Great. So it'll be like nanos for everyone.
Yeah. Well, as long as you participate, you have a good chance of winning. Not just nanos. iPad 3, man.
I love it.
Yeah, it is.
Great.
It is Fantabulous.
So stick around for Zen and Tech, and we will talk more about it, and you can find out how you guys can win free stuff, get fit, look hotter.
Is that Siri talking to you?
Sorry.
Sorry, Georgia. I can't look for places in Canada.
So, can I
Yes?
say something?
Has anyone ever stopped you?
Siri, stop. Okay, I jailbroke.
Already? You didn't even last a week.
I think I lasted a week. And one of the things that I did is that let me just show you. Hal,
Yes?
my Siri will answer me by calling it. It'll also launch applications. Siri, launch Safari.
Is this like a tease for stuff you're going to show us on Sunday?
I can't do that for you.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry to let you down.
Okay, so it doesn't understand my Canadian accent very well, but yeah, and I have like 1,000 different applications that I put in. A lot of them are dealing with different stuff that Siri can do. So, sorry, I'm going to turn her
Yes.
off because she's going to constantly voice activate.
Will you go over
during
some of
the
these
show.
apps with us on Sunday?
Oh, I have like 12 different
Nice.
apps that I installed. Some of them work really amazing. Some of them really don't.
Okay, well, we'll find out.
But check it out on Sunday and we'll talk about all of the things that are there. So I'm turning listening off, cancel, and listening off. There we go.
So what do you have for
She won't
us
interrupt.
in the non-show-offy Georgia world?
Well, Renee, a little bit of what you were at, you and Leanna, Macworld.
Macworld
Macworld?
slash iWorld 2012.
And?
It was
What
good.
was the best of Macworld?
You know, I said this a lot. So Macworld this year basically could have fit into the Samsung booth at CES. It was not a big Macworld. It was not the Macworld of days past when Steve Jobs put sneaker to stage on the keynotes, for the keynotes and introduced iPhones and MacBook Airs, when giant accessory makers had monolith-sized booths everywhere. It was a small Macworld. It was smaller accessory makers. It was independent developers. But for me, it was mostly just the Apple community. There were tons of fellow bloggers there. I had wonderful conversations with them, with PR people, with the smaller accessory makers, with just all sorts of really awesome people. It was more like a reunion than an expo this year.
So there's a lot of people, a lot of things that you're seeing, but was there anything, what would be the most exciting kind of hardware that you could look forward to from Apple? What are the new things that you could do? What are the new stuff that they talked
Absolutely
about?
nothing. Nothing. There was nothing new at Macworld. Even the people who were there did not really have a lot to announce because CES was just a couple weeks ago. Apple's not at Macworld anymore. All the big accessory makers have moved to CES. People have moved their news announcement cycles to CES. So this year it was just they showed off what they had. It was the stuff that was there, but that's why I'm saying it wasn't about the stuff this year. It was about the people.
So tell me, did you have a lot of fun? Did you meet a lot of different people?
Yeah, I mean, we had a ton of fun. We had a lot of travel problems, so Leanna and I both got there late on Thursday, and the show was just closing as we got there, so we got a peek at it. But then we went out. We met up with people who've been on the show before. We met Matt Panzarino from the Next Web, Mark Gurman from 9 to 5 Mac, a lot of the really cool Apple bloggers like Sean Blanc and Ben Brooks. I like that. The one thing about Macworld is that it was still a kind of a Mac pundity thing. Like the people I've always seen at Macworld, the Macworld people, the Andy Ionatkos, the Grubers, the people who are always there, still got a lot of attention. And I think it'd be nice if they still had those people, but also brought in those other people, the more mobile, because they're calling it iWorld now as well. But there's all sorts of mobile bloggers, smaller bloggers, very interesting people that I think they could infuse a lot of new energy into the show with. So hopefully next year they do that.
Do you think that Macworld is dying off in its necessity? Is it making itself more redundant, or is there a way that they can kind of resuscitate it so that it has a little bit of more pizzazz?
I don't know if they see. So what they're doing is the expo is not as important. They're kind of billing it as an iFan event, as a place where the Mac community can get together, and I think that's smart. You have WWDC to some extent, but that's mostly developers. It's expensive. This was just people who love Apple going. It was almost like the big family reunion for the Apple community, and I think that might be a good hook for them.
I think that that's a great idea to make it kind of a party for everyone to get together, to know, to talk Mac, and to deal with things. I like that.
Yeah.
That could work.
I think it was. I had this line that I like to say at the end of the show that this was our Macworld. Other Macworlds were different, but this one was ours. And that's kind of the feeling that I had for this Macworld. And Jason did a great cartoon for us. Jason rocks.
And we have all of the different things that were covered in Macworld. So if you want to take a look, we have all the different hands-on of things that were there, people that were met, things that we did. You came, you saw, you did.
We concurred. Yeah, we filmed a ton of hands-on videos with different apps and accessories. Once again, lots of shout-outs to Georgia. I wonder why, but the accessory people love you, Georgia. And
I love that.
Leanna filmed a lot of developer spotlights, which you're going to see in coming weeks, because we've done text developer spotlights before, Seth, but those are kind of dry, too long, didn't read. So we actually went and filmed them. We had, great chats with a lot of really cool developers, everyone from like Garmin to Black Pixel to Riedel to just a ton of really good developer spotlights we shot.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them.
Yeah, and some of them quite big Iterate fans, Seth.
Nice.
Yeah. That was a cool part because at CES you don't get to meet the people as much, and we actually met a lot of people who love this podcast. A lot of podcast fans were there, and they were nice enough to say hello.
That's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Seth, I have a question for you.
I have a question before you have that question.
Okay.
I just got an email from AT&T because my wife went just barely over her 2 gigs, and now she's being throttled. Is that like a thing now? I saw people talking about this today.
Yeah, Jeremy Sikora from our forums got the same thing, and he spent like 3 hours on the phone yelling at AT&T, and a bunch of other people said that likewise. If you hit 2 gigs, apparently on unlimited, they start to throttle you and really try to force you onto a tiered plan.
That's nice. That's not hostile at all.
Oh, dude, that's like
How could
Hollywood
that
cable
be?
TV hostile.
Like you're paying, she's on unlimited.
Yeah, I switched to tethering because I wanted the tethering plan, and I don't use as much data as she does. She's on the unlimited plan that we've had for years. I happened to look at her usage today because Dave and I were talking about it at work, and she was at like 1.9 this afternoon. I guess she did something between now and then, and I just got the email, and it's like, oh, hey, guess what? You're one of our biggest users. I find that hard to believe that my wife, who probably only uses it for Pandora, is a real strain on AT&T's network.
So do you think that this, and Frey kind of mentioned it, is this because they lost T-Mobile and they're trying to make some extra cash back in the amount of, how much do they have to pay up for the merger gone sour?
Like $4 billion.
Yeah, you know what?
Some
That's
sort of crazy
fine,
amount.
but we didn't make it not work, I didn't personally say, hey, you know what? That's not a great idea, and now you should charge me.
Yeah, you didn't offer to cover for them if anything went wrong.
No,
and
I didn't.
really, it seems like, again, one of these strong arm positions, which haven't people learned already that it does not work exceptionally well on the internet to try to strong people like into things like, SOPA. Like, it just doesn't work out well. People just get really angry and they will rant and then they will leave.
Oh yeah, you can take away our civil rights, but if you touch our data, we take to the streets. I mean, we don't play around with that.
I mean, honestly, in the grand scheme of things, I don't care that much, but I could understand if she was at like 4 gigs or something, but she's at like 2.0 something. It's obnoxious.
Shame on you, AT&T.
It's ridiculous.
Shame on you.
And it's not like she's she's paying for what she's getting, which is unlimited. So it's not really fair to be punished for that.
Right.
Jeremy is writing a scathing editorial for us on this, and we should have that up tomorrow. He was not happy.
I'll be sure and leave a scathing comment, not toward Jeremy, of course.
No, you can do both. You could scathe AT&T and Jeremy. He can take it.
All right, I'm sorry. Let's move on.
Georgia, you had a question.
Yeah, what was your question?
Well, I wanted to ask you, Seth, because we asked our viewers what new hardware were they most looking forward to from Apple in 2012. So, Seth, what are you most looking forward to?
I think
I have a guess.
Do you have a guess?
I do. I'm assuming the iPad 3. But
spoilers, Georgia, spoilers.
It could be hard against the iPhone. So
You're wrong, Georgia. You're wrong. It's
Really?
Pippin 2.
Yes!
Pippin
Yeah.
2, this is the year it's going to happen. No, it's the iPad 3. I'm very excited for it. I'm very, very excited. I can't wait to get it. I didn't get a 2, as everyone knows, so the speed bump is going to be
Wait, you didn't
great.
get a 2?
You didn't get. I didn't know that.
Let's not do
I
this.
didn't
Let's
even
not
know
do
that,
this.
Seth.
Come
My
on.
goodness, I'm shocked.
Let's
Can't
not do
believe
this.
you're on the show, frankly.
I thought we were past
What are you
this.
doing? How could we even have you
No,
on
no,
the show
Seth,
without having the newest of hardware?
We didn't
that I
pass
can now
this.
Say
We
with Siri.
we stopped and poured a foundation and started erecting walls on this.
The only reason that I got the the iPhone 4S was so I could bug Seth.
It wasn't to make Georgia better, it was to diminish you, sir.
Of course.
Exactly. No, not lengthening my own, just cutting someone else's.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Okay.
and Renee, what are
Yep.
you most looking forward to? Seth getting an iPad 3?
No, I'm really looking for it. It's hard for me. I really want that iPad 3 and I really want that iPhone 5. I kind of want everything. I don't feel like I should have to decide. Stupid poll making me decide.
Well, for me, it's definitely the iPhone. And for most, I love the fact that it says 4-inch iPhone. Anyways, the iPhone 5 for 43%. Then we'll cut through the little tiny bitty itty bitty numbers. Retina display iPad, 14% quad core iOS devices, 6% Apple TV, television, 7%.
Wait,
But
you
pretty
skipped
much
you
the
skipped
winner-
LTE at 9%.
LTE at 9%. But really, the winner was the iPhone 5. That
Yes.
was it. The MacBook Air only had 4%. Sorry, Brad.
3D support got almost nothing, 0.81. Thank goodness.
Yeah, everything else was like little tiny itty bitties here or there. But it's, the iPhone.
Yeah. And we have a bunch of rumors about it. I believe we have a bunch of rumors about everything this week, don't we?
Yeah, it's a big rumor week.
Let me look shocked for all the rumors. Okay, I'm done.
All right. So this was a theory I had because I was talking to a lot of people at Macworld, and Mickey Papillon, who I respect greatly, who has awesome sources. He is the godfather of cell phone podcasting. You can enjoy him every week on the Android Central podcast. He says that Qualcomm has the chips now to make a decent, good battery life, not chunky iPad 3 or iPhone 5, that the chips are ready to go. My only question was, yes, we have the chips, but we don't have the availability. So Verizon's got, a bunch of markets across the US. AT&T has just begun rolling out. Sprint is going to take years to get into a decent position. In Canada, we have a handful of cities on 2 carriers. Europe and Asia has a smattering. There's just no LTE market yet. So would Apple really invest in an LTE iPhone now, or will they wait like they did with the iPhone 3G until it's more mature? Or will they do what they did with the Verizon iPhone and release a basic HSPA plus EVDO iPhone for most people and put a special LTE iPhone on like Verizon or other LTE markets? What do we think?
I honestly don't know. I'm still so sketchy on LTE's performance. I know it's very fast, but I've yet to see a phone that can last a day. And honestly, if Mickey says the chips are ready, I defer to him. He knows his stuff. So if he says it's coming, I would take his word that it is.
The chips could be ready. Does it mean that they're really going to be using them or just testing them out to see how bad it will be for battery power and everything else? Oof. Again, it's a little bit harder to say than in the past just because we have someone new at the helm. So what would be the difference between the manner in which Tim Cook would deal with things in comparison to the way that Steve Jobs would do it? I would say as Steve Jobs at the helm, he is not going to test anything out unless he is sure that it's still going to run really, really smoothly. Apple hates bad press. Like, you can just take a look at the small issue that they had with AntennaGate. They really went all the way in to make sure that their people were completely happy and satisfied and they could find a way around it, and it cost them a ton of money.
Let me ask you this.
Bumps.
With regards to LTE, Verizon's already had like 3 fairly embarrassing LTE outages, and that's only with a few Android devices on the network. If they start selling 10 million iOS devices hitting that LTE network, is it robust enough to handle it? Or is it going to be yet another freight train hitting yet another, maybe not prepared network?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. We already have so many issues with networks and money and the cost and what's going to happen with that. And again, Apple users we're a little bit more difficult, a little bit more picky, and we're expect
voracious.
a lot of quality. Yeah. So I'm not really sure. I think that it could definitely be a huge issue and something that they're going to have to take a look at. And it's something that you can't really test out fully before the release. So I would say that they would wait another year. But
All right, so let's put Georgia's money where our mouths are. Are we going to have an LTE iPad and iPhone this year, Georgia? Yes or no?
if I had to put money on it, I'd say no.
Seth Clifford.
I would say iPad is more likely than iPhone, but if they go with the chipset in the iPad and we see it, I would say that it's probably going to the phone too.
Can we agree that they wouldn't put LTE in the iPad if it doesn't also go in the iPhone because the iPhone is still the flagship product?
Yes.
I don't think that that's a necessity for sure. If it kills the battery in comparison to the amount that we use the phone in comparison to the iPad, I could see them choosing to test out the waters in just the iPad versus using it in the phone as well. Less people are going to be upset. We're usually at home. We can,
Oh, so you mean if it's horrible in the iPad, they might reconsider putting it in the iPhone?
Or they might just try it out first on the iPad because there's definitely a different set. And that would be a great testing ground for people to use it because there's a good deal of iPads out there. And yet we wouldn't be, furiously mad as I would if my battery drains in moments or I don't have signal or, whatever we crash.
And there'll be less iPads hitting the network than there would iPhones. So it'd be a good ability to test the performance before they put it on the most popular phone in the universe.
Exactly. So I could see them splitting it. I don't think that would be a big difference,
And I have to always be opposite Georgia, so I'm going to say yes, LTE and everything this year. Even I don't know.
But do you really believe that, or are you just saying it to be contrary?
I want one of us has to be right, one of us has to be wrong, or it's not interesting TV. So I'm saying yes to LTE.
I know, but I want to know the truth. What do you really think? If you had to bet your home life, whatever else, what it would be?
Yeah, I think Apple will do it. I think they'll have the chips and they'll do it.
Okay, cool.
I think Tim Cook's going to go big or go home.
LTE Newton.
LTE Newton, do it. Do it now. I want LTE in my soup.
For one moment. You turn it on.
See, here's the thing, though. Here's where I'm going to be contrarian, because a lot of Americans are saying Apple has to do LTE now. They have to do it. No, they don't. There's very few LTE markets. Yes, the U.S. has it, but if you look at Apple's financial results, the U.S. is only part of where they make their money. They make so much money globally that if them selling a 3G phone for another year, the only person who really stands to lose here is Verizon. I mean, right now, you basically have an HSPA, 14.4 megabits per second iPhone everywhere but Verizon and Sprint. They're stuck at 2.2 to 3 megabits per second. And if they have to do that for another year, it's not bad for them, but it's humiliating for them to have the fastest network yet the slowest iPhone. So I think Verizon is going to push really, really hard to get LTE this year, just so that AT&T doesn't have the only 4G quote-unquote iPhone.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's fair, but again, does Apple really care what Verizon wants? Apple's one of the few places where, in the market in between, Verizon needs Apple more than Apple needs Verizon. They need them, they make a lot of money, they want to keep them happy, but in the end, they're going to make sure that their product deals with it after. Though LTE is a huge buzzword, though many people don't even know what it means.
Yeah, well, so we'll see. Michael in the chat room says that Verizon said no to Verizon's insisting that that's why there's not a lot of Windows phones or Blackberries on Verizon now, because they don't have LTE phones, and Verizon only wants LTE phones. But they'll take any iPhone Apple gives them. I mean, the iPhone sells so much, they will gladly just be infuriated on the inside and happily sell them on the outside.
Well, even can I ask from people, do you even care if Apple has an LTE phone or not? Are you still going to get the iPhone even if it's not LTE? I will.
If it has a glowing Apple logo, you're damn right.
Damn glowing Apple logo. I have it right here.
We'll see it eventually.
See it eventually.
So, yeah, so there was a supposedly boy genius who used to be fairly solid, but he's been a little hit and miss lately, put up a post that they have a source who had an iBoot dump. Seth, are you familiar with these boot dump things?
No, not really. I've heard of them, but I'm not really familiar.
I was like, yeah, no.
Yeah, well, it's basically it takes a bunch of diagnostic information or something. It takes something from the something and shows you what's running on the thing. So in this case, that thing is an iPad 3, and it shows that it is using a quad-core chip, and that if this is to be believed, I mean, you could easily spoof information from iBoot the same way you can spoof anything. It's the internet. It's crazy. But if this is to be believed, it is running a quad-core iPad 3 with LTE. So we can put that in our internet pipes and smoke it. Just for your consideration, FYI, it's possible.
Yeah, I saw those pictures today, and I got all excited because everybody was talking about it on Twitter. They were like, "Hey, BGR is a big scoop," and I clicked over and looked at the post, and it was like pictures of text, and I was like, "Okay, that's scoop-ish."
If it's true, I mean, if it's true, it's a good scoop. If it's not, then it's just more grist for the rumor mill, which is starting to pick up, George. I mean, the rumors for iPad 3 are starting to reach a fever pitch.
Yes, along with Foxconn, fever pitch.
Yeah, and we're going to get more into Foxconn later because I know Georgia still has opinions about them. But they're building plants. If you are not happy with the way they conduct their business in China, don't you worry. They are building plants in Brazil as well. So your iPad this time next year might have come, designed by Apple in California, assemblado in Brazil. Ciao.
And they've invested like $300 million. Choof. So that's a lot of, they definitely, for the iPad, they are going to make sure that there are enough of them. There is no shortage for iPads, though that doesn't mean that there won't be a shortage.
Ouch. Master in the chat room says that he's certain all the people in the city of God will be well treated by the Foxconn employers.
Right, because Apple cares.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute, but I will say they will be muy cansado after assembling all those iPads. Yeah, and there's iPhone rumors aplenty as well. iPhone, I'm still getting a lot of flack for saying iPhone 5. Get over it, people. There was an iPhone 4. Apple's not going to sell an iPhone 6 unless there's an iPhone 5 first. Because my mom will go into a store and say 4, 6. I missed the 5.
Can we please just say something to that? Because it really does bother me when we talk about the iPhone 5 and people are like, it's going to be the iPhone 6 because they're counting the number of phones.
Yes.
It's not like, okay, I'm not gonna bet cash or
Seth's house,
a child or anything or Seth's cash on it. Yeah. But it's gonna be the iPhone 5. Again,
it can be anything Apple wants. They could call it the iPhone lolcat if they want.
It wasn't the 5 after that. It was the 3, 3S, and then the 4. So it would be 4.
And then the 4S, yeah, and then 5, and then 5S.
5, because 5 comes after 4. Okay, I'm sorry. That's it. That's the end of my rant.
And internally, it's the iPhone 5, 1. That's the actual, designation for the model number. So we can relax about that. But yeah, rumors aplenty. But the first one is kind of interesting because this ties back to what you were just talking about, Georgia. 40,000 people petitioning Apple for ethical iPhone 5 manufacturing.
Okay, and usually I go on to the side of.
You're like Robin Hood.
Well, no, I go on to the side of the people and that really, we are spending, Apple spends a lot of money in order to deal with manufacturing. They have chosen to do this because it's cheaper. People get treated more poorly. Like, there's definitely a whole cycle to that. But, don't you think that they should be petitioning, the American government to kind of, put pressure on China instead of Apple? Or then again, does Apple have more power in this to help?
There were a couple of good points that were raised over the weekend. So let's say Apple doubles what they pay Foxconn for the iPhone assemblage. Do we think Foxconn will just hand that money over to the people? Do we think there's a whole bunch of things at work? Well, first of all, I'd like to say that I have yet to see the petition for ethical HP, Dell, Sony, Nokia, Motorola, HTC, Amazon, Lenovo, Toshiba.
There's not as many tree huggers that carry those type of phones as Seth has once, I believe, or twice or a few times called me. So people that we are more of the well-off, caring about the manner, the treatment.
You're too kind. I think Apple gets them big headlines. I think if they put up petition for Dell to make more ethical things, just no one would read it. There'd be not a single person clicking that headline. But you put Apple in it, and immediately it's like Justin Bieber-itis. Ah!
All right. Well, listen. I think we can all agree that Apple is not the only company that is using Foxconn and that has workers that do this kind of work and that are treated this way, right?
Yes.
We're all in agreement? I think the reason people are pressuring Apple, even though I don't agree with it because I think it's a little bit narrow of a viewpoint, I think the reason people are pressuring Apple is because Apple is the kind of company that will absolutely engulf supply lines and squeeze out other people and basically run a factory with only their stuff. So if they were to say, hey, guess what? We are not doing anything. This factory grinds to a halt until you guys do X, Y, and Z. They're probably the only company on the planet that has any kind of clout that would even make a dent as far as that's concerned. Now, granted, I don't agree with people saying Apple should do it, because what they should be saying is these people are suffering. Everyone should do this. But I think they're pointing at Apple because they know that Apple can swing that stick, and they're the only people that can.
Okay, I would add to that it's not just that Apple is the only one that could swing that stick, because Microsoft you could say almost exactly the same thing, perhaps not in the same vastness. But in the end, I believe that it's because they feel that Apple actually cares. They care, if not, even if you are the most pessimistic, they might not care about the actual end product of people versus the amount of profit margin, but they definitely care about the press that they get through this, in perhaps compared to other companies. So Apple people are a little bit more vocal about these things.
I'm just going to add again, though. I mean,
but also, Apple cares as well.
I'm going to just add to this again that this is not really an Apple problem. This is a China problem. You go back 100 years, and London, England had this problem. The U.S., we passed child labor laws because we decided we no longer wanted kids digging for coal. This is part of the evolution of any society. And the companies will take advantage of the pricing they can until the countries themselves, take a stand and say until all of China rises up and the wages and whatever make it unattractive for Apple to be there, then they'll go to Sri Lanka. We'll have this whole discussion again.
But so this is kind of like the cart horse kind of like
chicken egg
whatever theory it so may be. But Apple knew about that China has certain labor issues in the first place. They chose to go with the company anyways. And the only reason why Apple went to China putting all this money into it is because they're cheaper, because they have labor issues in the first place. Yes. So it kind of puts pressure to keep them exactly the way that they want.
Otherwise,
because if it becomes more expensive, then Apple will go to whoever else is cheapest.
There was a Donald Trump, of all people, whose hair must be made in China. I think we can all agree on that as well, is saying that Apple should manufacture...
He really gets offended, by the way. We might actually get a petition that you have to take that out.
I apologize. Trump's hair is made in America. Actually, is both him and the U.S. government is kind of asking companies like Apple to start manufacturing things in the U.S. again. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, these pendulums swing, and some countries become easier or harder to make stuff in, and... It'll be interesting to see where this all ends up. I'm glad we're having the discussion, though. If nothing else, I think it's an incredibly worthy discussion to have.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So on to less important.
Well, sorry, if I may ask, Renee, do you feel that Apple's going to do something about it? Is anything going to change because of the petition?
Well, Tim Cook actually sent out an email about this. And you remember for a while, Greenpeace was protesting Apple, not really because they were the worst offender, but because Apple is cares a lot about their brand and their image, and they felt that by pressuring them, Apple would be forced to respond. And I think that's also what's going on here. So Tim Cook sent out an email, and he said in part, and I'll read briefly because my Alabama accent is not up to snuff. As a company and as individuals, we are defined by our values. Unfortunately, some people are questioning Apple's values today, and I'd like to address this with you directly. We care about every worker in our worldwide supply chain. Any accident is deeply troubling, and any issue with working conditions is a cause for concern. Any suggestion that we don't care is patently false and offensive to us. And it goes on for a while. I mean, he had a good rant going on there. But if nothing else, it shows that the pressure is on Apple. They are going to respond. I don't know how they'll respond, but again, really important thing to talk about.
Okay, so that's a no.
You don't think they'll do anything?
I think that they'll put out press releases. I think that they just want, if the petition goes away, if people don't continue to put pressure on Apple, nothing's going to change.
Well, they did put out their supplier report, and I don't think any other company has done that yet even.
I think that they put out their supplier report because they can afford to do that, and it puts pressure on everyone else. In the end, I think that Apple people are going to be more upset than anyone else. Robert from the chat room said that Apple said it was not the actual cost of manufacturing in the U.S., it was just that in China they were more nimble.
Yeah, because they have 10,000
fingers. Children's fingers are much more nimble.
It's not children. They just said they have factory.
Sorry, had to say it.
You got mad at me for the Trump hairpiece thing, and now you're talking about children's fingers? Ouch.
Listen, at the end of the day, I hate to say this, and this is not really how I feel, but I think this is kind of the story in a nutshell. Apple is a business. In order to be successful, they need to make more money than they spend. Obviously, they've gotten pretty good at it. But in order to innovate and follow the plan that they set forth for themselves, this was one of the things they had to do. They had to use this kind of work, whether it was cheaper or whether the Chinese manufacturing facilities were, quote, more nimble. This was part of the plan, right? All the other companies do it. They're not the only ones. I don't mean to sound callous, but yes, things should change. Things have to change because it's not fair to, human beings there. But this is not like a new thing. This has been going on for decades. And just now everybody's getting up in arms about it because it's popular on Twitter. I don't know. It's kind of annoying.
Well, I mean, it happened to Nike. It happened to Kathy Lee Gifford. I mean, these things pop up every once in a while.
Right.
And to Martha Stewart.
They sent her to... No, I'm not going to say that.
Not because of that. Yeah.
So more iPhone 5 rumors. There was a rumor that briefly came out that said that the iPhone 5 was ramping up for production and we would see it this summer, and that it was longer and wider. And that was very quickly poo-pooed, saying, no, it has not gone into production. It's not longer and wider, or at least, no, quote-unquote, we can't see them making it longer and wider. We can maybe see a bigger screen in the same size device, getting rid of Georgia's infamous bezel, but no one sees. This is a good discussion to have too. So far, LTE chips are bigger, and originally they made chunkier phones like the HTC Thunderbolt, and people didn't like those, so they ended up making bigger phones. So, for example, all the Galaxy phones from Samsung are very large, and they take advantage of that by having large screens, but in part, that's for the extra battery and size of the LTE radio. Even the Lumia 900 is bigger than the 800 because it's LTE. Do we think that Apple would make an actually physical bigger iPhone like the Samsungs you played with, George?
I don't see that happening now. Eventually, they cannot make a thinner phone every single year. I don't see that possible until we really develop the clear kind of one layer skinned phones, but like something that you would see from thinking, Renee, go ahead.
Iron Man, Avatar.
Thank you. So I don't think that it's going to be that. I don't think that it has to be thinner every single year either. I think that they're going to keep it to a very similar face like that, section that it has. That being said, if we get rid of the glass backing, we could make it a little bit thinner, or if we,
Such a glass backing hater.
No, but if we deal with a different type of, again, the glass in the front is relatively thick. It's kind of thick, and the piece to the back is also a little bit thick. So
Gorilla Glass 2 is going to be thinner than Gorilla Glass 1 was, so maybe they can shave off.
In that way, we'll get a little bit more space.
Do you want a big honkin'?
I don't want a larger phone. I'm used to this size of phone, so it has to be similar, though. I wouldn't want a phone that's like, a mini iPad. It's just, some of them are just way too big.
Do you have your G Next yet, Seth?
Yeah, I do.
You want an iPhone, G Next sized iPhone?
No, it's a little too big. I think the Nexus S was probably the biggest I'd want the phone to be. That felt like a little bigger than the iPhone, but not too big. The Galaxy Nexus is way too big for me.
Do you think Apple would go there?
4-inch screen, that would be perfect.
Galaxy Nexus is 4.65 or something.
Yeah.
It feels like a little too much. Like, just to have in your pocket.
Just
it's
call
like
it a tablet already. No, I don't think Apple would go that big either. I think they're happy with the size of the device. I do think they could push to a 4-inch screen, and some people have complained that it wouldn't be Retina, but yeah, the bigger the screen, the further you can hold it away, and Retina is subject to distance as well as pixel density. Sorry, it's
So
pixel
they'll just
density
say
over distance.
you're holding the phone too close.
You're holding it wrong. So I don't believe that either. I still think we'll see it in the fall. I don't think 9 months is enough between iPhones. I think we'll see the iPhone 5 in the fall. Don't quote me on that, but you can quote me on that.
No, I would agree.
So this one is interesting, George. I'd like to get your take on this as a person who, analyzes people for a living. Apple has posted pictures and quotes of Steve Jobs around the Cupertino campus because they want to better enculturate him into Apple life. And an example is there's pictures of him in the MacBook Air, him in the original Macintosh. And one of the captions says, I think if you do something and it turns out pretty good, then you should do something else wonderful. Not dwell on it for too long. Just figure out what's next. And you see these as you walk around the campus.
Yeah, it makes sense. In the end, Steve Jobs was a huge part. He's an icon to Apple, and he inspired a culture. He was more than just, he himself was part of the marketing genius of Apple, like his actual presence was. And because he's not there, Apple wants to make sure that his legend lives on. Now, I would hope that they don't go the way of, say, the Colonel from KFC, so that he's everywhere and he's there. That becomes a little bit comical, and then you end up over marketing him, and it can actually have a backlash against it. But I think if it's done tastefully and beautifully, I think it's a wonderful way that people can embody him to Apple and continue living through what his inspirational ideas was. So I think it's a smart idea. I think it also, as long as it's done tastefully, is something that's wonderful.
I am never photoshopping the Steve Jobs Colonel Sanders picture, by the way.
Thank you for not doing it. All I know is if I start seeing like Steve Jobs T-shirts at Hot Topic, there's gonna be issues.
That's gonna kill people.
There's gonna be repercussions for that.
It can go too far, but it's inspirational. We care about him as a person, and it's hard to lose someone that is such an icon. So I like it.
I mean, pictures of Washington are all over the White House, and people quote from him. So there's not.
Yeah, I think it's done well. I don't think that it's something that's going to offend and or upset or is something that people would be offended by.
They're not holding the little red books to their foreheads and yelling out slogans as
if
Tim
everyone
Cook
was
goes by in
starting
his
to
pagoda.
walk around with like the black turtlenecks with jeans and stuff, that would be a little bit creepy. But some quotes, some pictures, some ideas, just to keep his memory alive and let us know who he is.
The turtleneck guard. Beware the turtleneck guard. They've also, and this is an interesting move, they appointed a new head of Apple retail because Ron Johnson has now taken over JCPenney. He's going to be selling chrome and glass T-shirts soon. And they actually went to England and hired John Browett, I don't know, as senior vice president of retail. They did not promote from within. They got him because, and I quote, "Our retail stores are all about customer service, and John shares that commitment like no one else we've met," said Tim Cook, Apple CEO. "We are thrilled to have him join our team and bring his incredible retail experience to Apple." But it's a little controversial because he came from Dixon Group, and some people are saying that was not such a hot store. What is this about, Seth? Is this Apple going international? Is this them trying to change focus?
No. I think, a lot of people have said that Dixon's really was not a great retail experience, right? That was kind of the buzz, like, oh, they've hired outside, and that's uncharacteristic of them, and they didn't even get somebody who did a fantastic job. They did somebody who did an all right job. I'm willing to bet that personality-wise, he probably meshes enough, and they think they can, I hate to say it, but indoctrinate him, and he's got the retail experience in terms of, I guess, scaling locations and things like that, and they will just get him up to speed with how they want it done.
They said, Georgia, that you have to be a really particular kind of personality to survive Apple. Like, you can't have too much of an ego or you get upset and leave, but you have to be strong enough to stand up and fight for your division because everyone else is fighting for theirs. Could it be a case of personality over performance, maybe?
It could be. It's a really hard thing. Again, a company, especially such a strong-minded company, and the company that's doing so exceptionally well, has to always be careful about who they have, what positions they're doing, and if they're living up to speed. And Apple's constantly trying to, ensure that they're doing the best numbers that they can. So you never really know. Like, it could have just been a personality clash. It could be something in which he's not really living up to the expectations that they would like him to be. They might be trying to change things up. And again, also, like with the change to the helm of having Tim Cook being at the helm differently, things are going to work a little bit different. And often then there'll be some changes that will work their way down because of that.
Yeah, because you don't have to, as much as Steve Jobs was a blessing in many ways for Apple, you also had to be able to survive Steve Jobs to work at Apple. And that's no longer the case. Tim Cook sounds to be a much lower key guy, like not a, what did they call him in the Inside Apple book? A productive narcissist, I think was the term they gave him.
I haven't started reading it yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll have to send it to you, Georgia, because they said there's three kinds of corporate leaders and with different personality types, and I think it was called a productive narcissist.
Okay, well, it's better than being a sociopath, so.
Well, I guess it depends on whose point of view.
I guess so.
What else did we have? I'm losing topics here.
We are at China Telecom.
Yeah, China could launch an iPhone 4S. China's a huge market. They could sell a lot of iPhone 4Ss. I guess that's good. The one that interested me though is that Apple said during the conference call that Amazon was not affected by the Amazon Kindle Fire, that it really didn't increase the Apple numbers, didn't decrease them. They're about the same. And Amazon has now released their financial statements. They did not make anywhere near the money Apple did, but I mean, who does? They were up in I think gross, but down I think in net. But once again, they did not release numbers for the Kindle Fire. It is a U.S. only product, but I still wonder. I mean, Seth, you have a Kindle Fire. At all, is it affecting the tablet market? Is it the tablet market?
No, I don't think so. I've basically just been using it as a Kindle and occasionally doing one or two other things. It's really not. It's not a terrific tablet. It's good at a couple.
Yeah, like coming from you, Seth, because you were very excited about it when it first came out. You had already had a Kindle. You spoke really good expectations that it might even, cost sales of the iPad at the beginning. So now it's not. Has it lived up to your expectations?
I think you all right. So yeah, to take a step back, when I first played with it in the store, I thought it was a piece of crap. And then I thought about it again, and I ordered one because I was like, you know what? Let me just give it a try. I can always return it. In playing with it, there are some things that it's really good at. Like, it's really a great size for reading. I still believe that. I really, really, really like reading on it. I kind of don't like reading on the iPad because it's like a little too big to hold.
It's a lot of woman to hold up.
Yeah.
That's why you need a spider arm.
Yeah.
I know.
I didn't win one.
Oh, damn.
The size, though, the 7-inch size, I think it's a nice size for some things. Like, I do watch videos on it. It's very nice for that. I do like to read. It's good for quickly checking email, quickly checking Twitter, things like that are kind of like in and out activities. But in terms of any kind of long duration activity, like typing a long email or, working on a document or doing anything like that, it really kind of falls down. It's really not very good. It's a little hiccupy when you start to do more on it. And the apps just really aren't there, as I said on a previous show.
Yeah, you were begging for black on the Twitters yesterday.
I did. I asked those guys. I was like, please give me something. And Hamrick was like, stop using Android. And I was like, come on, dude, just port the app.
He's a BlackBerry dev, so that's kind of mean on his side.
Yeah, right. But in terms of it affecting the tablet market, it's not going to dent the iPad market. I still think that it's probably going to be the second most successful single device in that market, though. I think there's too many other things that people have to choose from, and that is a very easy, I'll just get this, you know?
It's the cheap. There's usually like a good and a cheap. There's a couple people that can take positions in the market. And sometimes cheap beats the snot out of good, like the way it has in the desktop computer market for a long time. It happens. The big story. George has been waiting so patiently. We mentioned it earlier. You barely lasted a week without a jailbroken iPhone. You bought your new iPhone 4S. You showed it off last week. You were so excited. And Ali put up literally a ton of jailbreak tutorials. She has how to troubleshoot common jailbreak issues. They're putting up tons of jailbreak apps, Siri extensions, notification center extensions. So my question for you is two parts, young lady. First, why did you jailbreak? And second, what do you think of jailbroken iOS 5? Because before you were on iOS 4.
Okay, so why did I jailbreak? I jailbreak just because I really love to be able to... Okay, part of it is because I like to have the option to be able to get any application that is so out there. Two, if I want something, I want to be able to have it now. So if certain things do not work exactly as I want them to be, I'm like, really, why am I waiting? Like, why not jailbreak? It doesn't really cost me anything. Yes, it does make the phone slightly less stable. And there are a few more bugs to that, but in the end, I get more usability with my phone. I get to have fun with it, test different things out, and I like the eliteness of being able to do things with my phone that I so wish. So, yeah, I just like to try out the new cool.
And what are the
stuff.
iOS 5? What is it like? I mean, is it much better than it was on iOS 4? Is it about the same? Are you happy you're using an iOS 5 jailbreak as opposed to an iOS 4 jailbreak?
I do. I definitely I like iOS 5. It's really nice. The notifications that kind of pop up at the top, even with the jailbreak, I like that. It's done well. It flips over. It maybe flips sometimes too quickly, but it's non-intrusive. So there's definitely some advantages to having it on the iOS 5. It was also a bloody easy jailbreak. There was no DFU.
Yeah, I should explain. If there had been a GFU, Georgia would have been forced by law to do it live on the show. But since it was a very simple jailbreak, she got out.
Really, if you can plug in your phone to your computer and press a button on your keyboard, you can jailbreak. That was how easy it was. And if everyone remembers me jailbreaking my 4...
It was some of the best TV I've ever seen.
Doing DF, it was what a horrible experience. I should watch back that show.
It's like watching one of those sports accidents shows.
The stress, and I'm watching the chat room as they're like trashing me and heckling me and cheering me on at the same time. It was hilarious.
I missed that.
I think Seth was doing it too to me, actually, now that I look back.
Yeah, you were yelling, DFU, Seth Clifford.
Yeah, I was heckling, sure. Mm-hmm.
So this jailbreak is exceptionally easy, and I have to say, more stable.
I want to tease a Sunday show because it was not all roses in the land of jailbreak. I got a very angry call very, very late at night when Georgia was I don't want to spoil it, when Georgia was trying to buy things from Cydia. I have not seen her that angry in a long time.
Yeah, I actually freaked out.
Yes.
I was livid. The amount of upset I was palpable.
Yes, so we will talk about that on Sunday. You will see angry Georgia. She's going to wear her Hulk pants.
Yeah, and you will see some of the sweet, Seth, you might actually want to jailbreak because of some of the apps that we're doing. I'm just saying you might want to, because some of the stuff that you wanted, I now have.
No, I definitely might want to. I just really don't want to right now.
He's lazy like me.
You might change your mind. You might change your mind because I'm having a bloody lot of fun, and there's a lot of really useful things that are in this jailbreak. Some very cool ones too, like a lot of fun jailbreak apps. So even people that might not have wanted jailbreak before, this might change your mind.
We'll talk
about it. You know what would get me to jailbreak probably?
Money?
No, not money. I would need one single jailbreak app that when I flip, all right, so if I have to restore and then I re-jailbreak, I want to install that app, flip a switch, and all my stuff comes back. All my apps.
iCloud for jailbreak.
That's pretty much what I want. Until I can get something close to that, I don't feel like flipping all those switches anymore.
That's fair.
Okay, fair enough.
We shall discuss this.
That's really what it's really about. The time. It's about the time and the tweaking. I don't have the time to do it now, but if it could be made,
if you could do it once and then everything would go back. If anything so occurs, that would you'd be stable with that.
One switch to restore them all.
That'd be very alluring. Yes.
All right, so it's that time of the night where we have to switch gears, get ready for the next show, get some Zen and Tech mojo going in a minute. But before we do, I would like to thank Mr. Seth Clifford. Sir, where can we find out more about you?
You can find me on Twitter at Seth Clifford. You can find me on the iMore shows and on Iterate with Renee and Mark Edwards of Bajango. And if you want to see some of the work we do, the apps and sites that we build, please visit our website. It's nfidm.com. We are Nickelfish.
Woohoo! That's my new damn it.
Damn it.
And Georgia, where can we find out more about you?
You can find me on Twitter at GeorgiaTIPB, and I know I'm retro like that. And you can also find me on the website www.imore.com.
Nice. And you can find me at Renee Ritchie on Twitter. You can find me at imore.com or mobilenations.com. You can contact us all at iMore, or you can email us at podcast@imore.com, or just leave a comment when the show goes live on the blog. We are here each and every Wednesday night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Our brand new companion show, Apps and Accessories Live, is when again, Georgia?
Sunday nights, same bat times, same bat channel.
Excellent. And for all of our shows, you can go to mobilenations.com/shows. If you haven't already, please go to iTunes. Please leave a rating and a review for the show. It means a lot to us. I know some of you might have given us a rating before, but now that we've switched show names, it'd be a perfect opportunity to go and give us a new review, just to, tell people what you think of the show. We had a lot of great fans come up to us at Macworld. We'd love to hear from more of you. And with that, I'm going to bid you all good night, and we're going to try to hustle Kevin Michaluk onto this show.
Let's do it.
All right. See you guys.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.